This is Secret Sauce, the restaurant marketing podcast. I'm James Ealing, and you're listening to episode 144, Restaurant Trends for 2021, Online Ordering and Delivery.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success. Your secret sauce.
Hey team, welcome back to the show. I hope you got something out of episode 143, our first of our Restaurant Trends episodes. I think this is going to be one standalone one. We're going to be looking at online ordering, online delivery, because that has been a massive year for online ordering. It's going to be very interesting to look at. And there'll be one episode after this where we're going to sort of bunch up a lot of the other bits and pieces. Putting all of those three together, I think we're going to have some really good trends that you're going to be able to use to think about your business and to make sure that 2021 is going to be more profitable than 2020. I say that every year. All seriousness, it can't be any worse. In last week's episode, we talked about a few things. We talked about the big changes that have occurred. We've talked about the impacts at a business level, a team level, and on top of that, the mental health impact around the world as everyone has, in their own personal way, had to deal with coronavirus and just how that impacts them in all of the facets of their life. I want to tell you a quick story about something that we heard on the news that I thought was really interesting. And it highlights the fact that for everyone, the impact of COVID really comes down to the way that they perceive it, because some people are doing it really tough, some people are doing it quite easy. You might have groups in both of those camps in your demographic, in your local area, and that is going to make it interesting for how you're going to deal with 2021. So a couple of weeks ago, we were hearing about someone and he said he'd just come out of quarantine. So there was a state-enforced quarantine and he hadn't been able to leave the house, to do exercise, could only go out to get food. Very limited circumstances when you could leave the house, very tight lockdown. And he was rapturous. You could just hear the joy. And he said, it's fantastic. It's such a relief to be able to get out of our house. It was just terrible being so cooped up, but now we're free. We're free again. Now, the interesting thing was, this is a guy who was in Adelaide, which if you're not from Australia, so the South Australia, one of the states that locked down, they'd been in lockdown for 3 days. Now, I'm in Victoria. We are the lockdown kings and queens. We had 11 weeks of that. So old mate in South Australia probably wasn't going to be getting a whole heap of sympathy from everyone in Victoria. But it highlights just how people, their response to COVID-19 is really based on what their experiences are. And for him, those 3 days had been really tough. This is something to bear in mind when you're thinking about your own mental health, that of your team, and that of your customers moving forward. Now, online ordering, online delivery. What has happened in the last 12 months? And so I'm going to go through, we're going to look at what we have seen happening, because there's been some big moves throughout the year. And then we're going to sort of set you up with some what we think is how it is going to play out next year, because it is going to be an interesting area to be watching. This is one of those areas that I think is really important, because we saw a lot of people get their fingers burnt really badly in the online ordering space. And I'm talking about restaurants here. I'm talking about restaurants who went out of business really quite quickly. Around the world, many restaurants were placed in lockdown where the only food that they could turn out was food for either possibly pickup or delivery. So we have a global crisis that is fundamentally designed for companies like Deliveroo, Uber Eats, and Just Eat. And so you would have thought that they would have had an amazing year. Well, it's not quite the case. So as of now, DoorDash has just listed their shares, which some people may say is the fact that the original investors are now getting out where the market is at its peak. The shares had a really, really good first day, but it'll be interesting to see what it is like in 6 months' time. Just Eat shares, they've had an interesting year. They started at about 86 and they are trading at 86 now. So they've actually gone nowhere, even though so many restaurants have been driven into their arms because of their ability to provide delivery for them. Uber Eats, so we're not really too sure what's happening there. They did purchase Postmates in a $1 billion deal. It'll be interesting to see where Uber Eats transitions over the next couple of years. But starting around March, we saw a really big rush for restaurants to look at moving into delivery. And because this is the interesting thing, many restaurants hadn't been doing delivery. They hadn't been using anything like Menulog or DoorDash or Uber Eats. But that was the only way that they could survive. Well, it wasn't the only way. There was a couple of other things that you could do. You could be selling the produce, in little recipe kits. We saw a few restaurants try that. I'm not too sure how successful that was. You could be selling the raw ingredients. You could sell it in sort of a partially cooked mechanism. But the overwhelming thrust for those restaurants trying to survive was to go to delivery. And it's been interesting because for those restaurants that have got strong established delivery businesses, you can already see a maturity in their packaging, a maturity in their menu, and a maturity in their product mix. Many restaurants starting out making those mistakes that restaurants make when they first go to delivery, having every single menu item on their delivery menu. Hey, people, not every dish was designed to be delivered. Some of them just don't travel well. Some of them don't look good when the customer opens them up. These are the things that you want to be thinking about. And so I think what we're going to see next year is a lot more work in packaging, a lot more work around the product mix. So having a delivery-only menu, I think, is going to be one of those things that many restaurants have not really thought about too much because they've just been so busy just trying to survive. The smart restaurants will be really looking at that profitability mix. We go back to the old quadrant, the dogs, the plowshares, the stars, the puzzles. How do each of the items on your menu, how do they all sort of work out in that? Of course, you have costed your menu, haven't you? I know you probably haven't, but that's okay. Cost it out, work out where your profit is, and then see what you can do to drive that profitability. So a big jump in the number of restaurants that are doing delivery. But we didn't see this as an increase in profitability for these companies, and we're going to talk about a little bit about that. But there's a couple of things that I think are important to recognise. So I know this is a global phenomenon. In Victoria, in the last 3 months, there's been 5 people who have died working for delivery companies. There are now court cases around this, and I think that this is a really big tragedy because for each one of those people who dies, how many delivery riders are there who've been injured and unable to get any benefits? This is the unspoken of cost of the delivery riders in this gig economy. And I think it's really insidious. Spoken to a lot of restaurants last year who moved to something like an Uber Eats when they had their own delivery riders and sacked their own delivery riders. So people who were getting all of their entitlements and benefits and being paid properly, and they were getting rid of them because it was cheaper to use an outsourced delivery service. That's not good because we're creating really dodgy jobs that don't add value. Now, I know Deliveroo says that they currently employ 50,000 riders in the UK, with thousands applying each week, which is a reflection of the growing popularity of on-demand work. Or is it? I know talking to delivery riders that I've seen, many of them are doing, it's not the growing popularity, it's not the flexibility that they want, they're doing it because of desperation. They're doing it because it's the only job that they can get. Many delivery people do it because it is the job of last resort for them. And it's the job of last resort because of the fact that there are the wages that you earn are so low. Now, it's interesting. If there's thousands of people joining or applying for Deliveroo each week, one would have thought that in a year's time, they'd have 100,000 riders. They'd have an extra 50,000. And it's not like that because of that churn. This is really a company that is taking advantage of workers who don't have any other way of generating an income, so they can get them to work for them, pay them below the award rate, and really sort of carve out a niche of what was a profitable component of a restaurant's business and turn it into an unprofitable part. What I want to do is I want to read from just a couple of really interesting articles that have come up in the press just recently, sort of to try and give you a little bit of a global perspective on what's actually happening. So eater.com, great website. They've got an article entitled Uber Eats launches national listening tour after buying Postmates for $2.65 billion. That's the heading. The subheading is, first on the agenda, convince the rest of the country to screw gig workers out of employee benefits. That article goes on to talk about the Prop 22 vote, which there's been a little bit of misinformation about, and that's where Californians actually voted to give companies like Uber more power in the way that they control their employees. And that's going to be interesting to see what the fallout is from that vote. Now, for our UK listeners, there's a really interesting article. Now, this one's a little bit old. It's about 7 months old, but it talks about Deliveroo was the poster child for venture capitalism. It's not looking so good now. The food delivery company is a case study in the destructive nature of its own disruptive business model. So this is a cracking article written by James Ball, who's the global editor for the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. And I want to read just a couple of bits out of this. Why Deliveroo is struggling during a crisis that should benefit its business model tells us much more about than just one startup. The company's initial reasoning for needing cuts in it is that coronavirus will be followed by an economic downturn, which could hit orders. That's plausible, but it's far from a given. The financial crash of 2008, which led to the most severe recession since the Great Depression, saw cheap luxuries perform quite well. People would swap a restaurant meal for, say, a £10 Marks & Spencer meal deal. Deliveroo is far cheaper than a restaurant meal for many people. There's no need to pay for a childminder or travel, and there's no need to purchase alcohol at restaurant prices. Why would Deliveroo be so certain that a downturn would be bad news? The answer lies in the fact that Deliveroo's real business model has almost nothing to do with making money from delivering food. Like pretty much every other startup of its sort, once you take all of the costs into account, Deliveroo loses money on every single delivery it makes, even after taking a big cut from the restaurant and a delivery fee from the customer. Uber, now more than a decade old, still loses money on every ride its service offers and every meal its couriers deliver. When every customer loses you money, it's not good news for your business if customer numbers stay solid or even increase, unless there's someone else who believes that's a good thing. What these companies rely on is telling a story, largely to people who will invest in them. Their narrative is they're disrupting existing industries, will build huge market share and customer bases, and thus can't help but eventually become hugely profitable, just not yet. He then goes on to say that these start-offs come in to existing sectors essentially offering customers free money. £10 worth of stuff for a fiver. It turns out that's easy to sell, but in the process, they rip the core out of existing businesses and reshape whole sectors of the economy in their image. And now, in the face of a pandemic, they are starting to struggle just like everyone else. It's not hard to see how this sorry story ends. Having disrupted their industries to the point of leaving business after business on the verge of collapse, the startups could be tumbling down after them. Now, that's a pretty damning indictment that James has written there, but it's bang on from what we're seeing. It's bang on from what we're hearing from all of the restaurants that we talk with. And I'd be really keen to get your feedback on how that resonates with you. So this is in The Guardian, so it's a UK story, but is it any different from what we're seeing in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, the UK, or the US? I think probably not. The issues about pay and benefits for riders, this is only going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that is going to drive the cost up. When you think about it, if Just Eat is delivering every meal at a loss, then how is it that they're going to deal with increasing costs? So Just Eat is moving to hourly pay. This is an effort to try and, one, increase the number of people that they've got delivering for them, because that is one of the big issues that they've got. They've got these people coming in and going because, let's face it, it's not a great job. You're not well paid for it. It is, by and large, for most hours of the week, well and truly below award rates. That is what many of the riders are finding. And that's why there's this continual churn. If people can get a better job, they take a better job. No one really wakes up in the morning and thinks, I'd love to be delivering for Deliveroo. They're doing it because they have to. As employee benefits become increasingly important, like is just what happened with Just Eats, that's only going to increase the unprofitability for these companies. And that means the price is going to go up. And this is where we're going to see that one of the big things that we're going to see, I believe, as the online ordering trend, and that is going to be price differentiation. Because I've got to tell you, if you're marking up your food 30% to cover the cut that Just Eat is charging, or Deliveroo, or any of them, then that's a significant expense. And I look at it, I might include a link to a couple of the other ones that we've done. We did a big breakdown of Domino's in Australia. Now, I know I always preface this with, yes, it's crappy pizza, but hey, I reckon that they're the smartest guys in the room when it comes to working out how much it costs to deliver something. Have a listen to that episode because it really is insightful in the way that the pricing is done. But price is going to become really important. There'll be people who have lost their job. There'll be people who had a full-time job that are now working part-time. Money's going to be tight for them. Money's going to be tight for the next 18 months for many of these people. They will want a little bit of luxury. They will want that meal where, it can just be delivered to them, but they're not going to be able to spend the extra dollars. They're not going to be able to spend the extra pounds because money is going to be, they're going to be a lot more price conscious. And this is why we believe that the balance is going to shift back to those restaurants that are going to be able to do their delivery themselves. Now, if you have a look at McDonald's, I think that they've really struggled this year, as everyone else has with COVID-19. And I'm not just talking specifically about McDonald's, but McDonald's, they're using delivery partners. How long can it be before they look to bring that in-house? I don't think it's going to be too long because they're going to be able to see the huge savings that they are going to be able to bring to their customers. And that means if you can deliver your meal at a cheaper price, and you've got to remember that 30%, if you can deliver for less than 30%, then you are making more money. You're increasing your profitability. This is a huge opportunity. So customers are going to be looking for that cheaper food. Now, part of the benefit, and when you talk to the guys from these delivery aggregators, they'll say, oh, but we've got the platform, and the platform is part of what you buy because, we put it in an app and it's all nice and easy and it's all super exciting. Yes, that's true. It is. But what about the people who are running their own marketing campaigns? What about the people who are doing their online ordering through their POS system or something like Frollo or any of the other systems that are out there that don't charge 30%? What about the places that are doing pickup only? What about the places that are running order direct and save campaigns? This is probably going to be the most important thing, I think, in online ordering. So we know that costs are going to go up as these companies are forced to treat their employees better, partially because of the competition. So the question's been asked, now that Just Eat is doing this in the UK, is that going to force everyone else to introduce hourly pay? Because that is going to create costs across the entire industry. Those costs, they're going to be passed on to, let me think, probably restaurants. So, and restaurants, not flush with cash, that's going to be passed on to the customers. So customers are going to look at it and go, wow, that pizza's really starting to get quite expensive. How do you think that customer's going to react when they see an ad from a pizza shop that is just up the street and they're saying a family-sized pizza for this much? And that price might be 30% cheaper. The kind of things that we think are going to make a really big dent in the number of restaurants that are using online ordering aggregators is pick-up only restaurants. So I get it, the logistics behind running a delivery team, it's really complicated, hey? You've got delivery people who don't turn up, they get lost, their car gets a flat battery, blah, 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 blah. You've got all of those issues. So the question is, how many customers are there that you could entice to pick up the food from your restaurant and take it home? I suspect that there will be a growing number of those people because of the fact that they're going to be able to score the food maybe 20% cheaper, maybe 30% cheaper, maybe 35% cheaper. And I'm old-fashioned. I remember the good old days when you used to be able to get a 10% discount if you were going to do pickup. I reckon that the profitability is still there to be able to do that. There's no front of house service. It's literally put it in the bag and someone takes it away and you get the cash for the meal that you've just cooked. Ka-ching. There will be people who will be driving around for this. And there'll be people who want the product of eating your food in their home, and they will put up with that little bit of inconvenience so that they can save 30, maybe even 40% of the price just by picking it up. For the people who don't have a lot of cash to splash around, that's going to be a really appealing offer. Those who are able to run their own marketing campaigns, they're the ones who are going to be able to prosper. That database is only going to become more critical. All of the big guys know this. DoorDash, Just Eat, Uber Eats. They know the value of their database because, so I've used Uber Eats and I got an offer from Uber Eats today, driving me, hey, you can get X amount off on your next order. And that's because I haven't ordered from them from a very long time ago. And they're continually fighting to drive those active number of users that they've got up as far as they can. What else are we going to see in the online ordering delivery space? I think we're going to start to see restaurants really start to make a push into lunchtime delivery. And that means looking around in your local area, who are the people that are there? All of them eat lunch, hey? Every single one of them is going to eat lunch. Well, almost every single one of them. For those people who are eating lunch, what is the offer that you can put in front of them? And my thing, let's not talk about discounting. What's a little bit of a value add? What's the thing that's a little bit exciting so that they will swing by and pick it up? What is the product that they want? Is it going to be a pick and go meal? Is it going to be a quick, 2-course meal? What is it that you can package up for those customers to really drive it? And, the great thing about if you're doing dinner only and you go to lunch, it doesn't need to be profitable because a component of that money that comes in is going to go to paying your lease. And that means that it can turn your dinner service from being barely profitable to profitable or profitable to even more profitable. So, just have a think about the number of hours that you're open, the revenue per hour, and then, spreading that, the more hours that you're open, then you're spreading that lease, that average lease per hour across more hours, which means that your lease is less expensive per hour. Now, flip side of that, you got to work more, you got to be covering your wages, and I would be thinking about making sure that you got a system in there because you don't want to be the poor bunny who's in there working 60 hours a week because that will slowly kill you, and we've had a tough year already, eh? Some of the things that we'll talk about in business trends, there's going to be a lot of restaurants that have closed over the last 12 months. So for you, that's a good thing. There'll be some people who are cashed up. For you, that's going to be a good thing. Start thinking about what's on the menu and what's going to appeal to each of the groups that you've got in there. Are you going to be targeting the cashed up people? Are you going to be targeting the budget hunters? Are you going to target both? Are you going to target one or the other? I think it's better to target one or the other. You need to look around your local area to get an understanding of what price point is going to be most effective for the customers that you've got, what products are going to be most effective. I always think have something that's nice and Instagrammable because I'm a huge fan of Instagram, but just putting it up on Facebook, putting it in front of people with a really low cost marketing campaign, that can go a really long way to getting that customer to order from you for that first time. And then once they've ordered from you that first time, then because you're using your own online ordering system, then you're getting the email address. You've got the right to reach out to that customer and say, hey, we haven't heard from you a while, or hey, it's Wednesday and we've got this special running on a Wednesday. So try and bring some of that demand over across from the weekend so that you're spreading out the demand in the kitchen. lots of things that you can do there around. And the other thing, don't forget this, less items on the menu, making sure that they're all going to sort of work through from a throughput point of view in the kitchen. That's key. You don't want to be having something that's fiddly, that you don't make a lot of money on, that people are going to order in their droves, because you're just going to slowly pound your kitchen into oblivion. You want the things that are nice and easy to produce, that look amazing, that customers order, and ideally you make a bit of coin out of on each and every single order. Now, we've talked about pickup, a delivery team, your own delivery team. Control them. Get that quality control thing really going. One of the things that we thought we might see a bit of, but we didn't actually see, was delivery riders delivering COVID. So touchless delivery seems to have worked quite well for a lot of restaurants, and it sort of hasn't really gelled. Now, we don't know whether that hasn't occurred or it just hasn't been picked up. I don't think it's occurred, to be honest. But that quality control thing is absolutely key. You've got lots of riders who are signing up. They're not overly well paid, and that means they might be a little bit hungry. They might want a couple of chippies out of the bag. And that is one of those things where you've got that reputation risk if they're the people who are delivering, because the customer's not going to see, well, they may see the delivery aggregator and blame them. They're much more likely to shoot it back to the restaurant, which is really quite sad because you've got no control over who it is that's picking up the food. But the thing that I always harp on about to anyone that I'm talking to in the industry, and particularly regulators or people thinking about policy, is that pizza shops have been doing delivery for 60 years. These pizza shops, some of them go out of business, but not all of them go out of business. Some of them have been delivering pizza for 60 years and they've been doing it profitably. They've been doing it whilst hopefully paying the correct wages. So this is the opportunity to really create some good jobs, some jobs that are meaningful for people, whilst you're growing the profitability in your own restaurant. Yes, it is a pain. One of the things that I've wanted to do is to interview someone who was an expert in running a delivery team. And I think the reason that companies like Deliveroo have been so successful is that if you're a chef and you're cooking up epic food, then logistics is not going to be your thing. It's really quite messy because it is just-in-time logistics, and the shot clock starts as soon as that meal goes over the pass. That meal is at its best, and it only goes downhill from there. So whether it ends up in the hands of your customer cold, whether it ends up all messed up about because the delivery rider has, fallen off his bike, whatever the issues that you've got there, when it passes the pass, that's the best it's going to be. And that makes it really intimidating for a lot of restaurant owners to think that they're going to be putting their work of art in the hands of someone that they don't trust. But building your own team, have a think about the packaging. Lots of work that can be done there. And that's why, we've talked about it, the Chicago pizza pie, perfect delivery item. Cannot understand for the life of me why we don't see more of it in Australia, because I think they're epic. I would like to eat one. I would eat one for dinner tonight if there was one available, but we don't make them here. It's the perfect delivery item because of the fact that the pizza crust is the actual encasing of it. It keeps it hot, it keeps it safe, and it means that, the meal pretty much looks exactly like it did when it comes out of the oven. They're the kind of things that we will see restaurants having a really good hard think about as things go back to normal. Well, it's not going to be really normal, but the post-COVID normal, as we move back into that, they're the kind of things that people are going to be thinking about because of the fact that we're going to see this really big bifurcation in the online ordering / delivery market where you've got people who've got the money. They're not going to mind spending too much extra cash up against the people who are really, really, really going to be the bargain hunters. Now, with those people who got a little bit of spare cash sitting around, they're still going to be interested in, maybe they could be getting better food. If your Indian is significantly better than somebody else's, but it's the same price, then obviously you're going to pick up more customers. That's the kind of value proposition that you might want to take in your restaurant as you target those customers that are willing to spend more than the average spend. And I've said this about us. We're lucky enough we love Indian food here in our family, so we'll get 2.5 meals per week out of what we order. We order more than $100 on a Friday night, and we've been doing that from the same restaurant for quite a while now. Now, the interesting thing is they've been using Frollo. They have saved an absolute fortune in commission. Particularly, if someone's ordering $120 worth, you don't want to be coughing up 30% of that. That's going to really hurt. That's every time we order, every week, it's an extra $36. I think that's really key to be thinking about. And why do we order from them? I love the chicken vindaloo. It's super hot. It's not as hot as it could be, but it is still quite hot. It's not as hot nor as good as K7's Vindaloo that we had in Singapore. That was completely epic, but tragically, K7 doesn't deliver to us. But, we'll get by. Just as a quick little side note in the online ordering space, we've got something exciting that we're working on where we think that there's a lot more that can be done from a technology point of view in the online ordering space, and we're very much planning on delivering that next year. We think that it's going to be a little bit of a game changer. We're really working on how we can help you tell the story of your restaurant in a way that's going to add value. And by that we mean, being able to put the price of your burger up by, $1, turn the $10 burger into an $11 burger. Customers may not notice, but your bank balance certainly will. Actually, probably not a burger. I don't think burgers are great from a delivery point of view, but whatever the other types of food that there are that you're delivering on. So that's about it. Really, you do want to be focusing on building your marketing database, your marketing processes, having a think about your menu mix, and really focusing on who your customer is, because your customer from last year will be fundamentally different in 2021. They may not exist. There might be a lot less of them. There might be a lot more. The good thing is there'll probably be a little bit less competition, and that's an opportunity. So it's not all gloom and doom. I mean, it's sad that some restaurants closed, but I think in a lot of areas, too many cities are overserved by restaurants. And I know in Melbourne, we were probably running at about 15% too many restaurants. Got to tell you, more than that have closed permanently. So this is the opportunity to really focus on getting that product mix right, getting the profitability mix right, getting the marketing, the telling of that story right, and having a really good hard think about how it is that you're taking those online orders or delivery. Or not. That's the other thing to think about. Some people are going to move back to dining in. It's going to be a little bit hard, but we're going to look at some of the ways that you can work with that. So, now, if you are thinking about your marketing, don't forget your website. We've got our free website analysis tool. Pop your details in. One of the team will give you a call. We'll go through and we'll do a quick audit of it. Super successful. I had lots of people try it since last week. Jump on it, because it's a really good way of you getting an understanding, and you don't have to use us. You can take that back to your web developer and say, hey buddy, fix these things. These are the things that are costing me money. Because next year it will be the quick and the dead, and our job is to make sure that you're the quick one. Alrighty, have a great week. Stay safe out there, and join us for episode 155, where we're going to look at leasing, food trends. That's exciting. Business trends. And then we're going to end off with something that I find super exciting. That's it. We're going to look at the trends in marketing. So that's it. Stay safe. Bye.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe, or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.